All right, you guys, welcome to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. It is your boy Terry, man. It has been a minute, and I need to be more consistent with these. I'm not sure what's going on, but life has really been life, and so we're going to get into it. So you guys just hang tight.
Welcome to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. This podcast was designed to let you know that you aren't the only one that took forever to get it together. So the rabbit hole that you have stumbled down will hopefully help you understand that just when you think it's over, it's only the beginning. Just because you were dealt a bad hand doesn't mean you have to keep it. Welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. Like I said, it is your boy Terry. Listen, man, it's been a minute, and I want to apologize to everyone who is or subscribes and listens to the podcast. I do apologize for being absent, but life has really been life, man. And I'm going to get into a little bit of an update with you guys on this episode because it's important that we understand the journey and the process of life after divorce and all that. And, you know, I've gone through a lot, over the past couple months. And I'll be the first to say that I don't have it together nearly as much as I thought that I did. And it's crazy how life works, right? Those of you who have been listening, went through a divorce, and that was not very fun for me. Sometimes as humans, we try to fake it till we make it, as it were, and we're not being really real with each other, with ourselves, and that's what happened with me. And so, just getting into the update now. A lot has happened. Me and my ex-wife, we're very cordial. We co-parent. It almost seems like we co-parent better than we did when we was married, which is crazy to me, but it is what it is. So we get along. There was a situation to where we had to take our son up to St. Louis to do some genetics testing because, my son being autistic, I guess she wants to see what side of the family it came on. That's my guess. And and so we rode up together, which was very awkward, and it set my anxiety to a whole nother level, right? Because I thought that I would be able to be okay with, being in the same vehicle with her, and It was really weird. It was a long drive. It was a long 2 hours to St. Louis. And for a minute there, I didn't think I was going to make it. I'm going to tell you. I felt like my man, what's my man? I forgot his name. Ken Jong Wong, whatever his name is. But anyways, I'm not to sound, insensitive or anything like that. But boy, he went viral with this sound right here.
Emotional damage.
And when I tell you that's what I had when she got into the car and we started driving and we started talking and we started talking about our marriage and it got really awkward for me. But I didn't say anything, saying to let her think that it was awkward. But it was extremely awkward. And so I was real with her. I made some comments to her, and I guess it made her uncomfortable because things I was saying to her, because I had to be real with it. I had to be real with the situation. And the situation is simply that I still carry feelings. And I think that I wish that I had her mentality. Her mentality is, okay, you had your time. It's over. Saying, move along. Don't bring your nonsense or your feelings to me because I don't want to hear them. And I don't have that. I'm not built that way. But she is. And I commend her for that because that's kind of who she is. But for me, it was tough because I wanted to let her know how I felt. Which brings me to life lesson number 1 in this podcast today. Because the episode name is, man, what was I thinking? Right. And we always get into that particular mindset is, what was I thinking? Like, why would I do that? Why would I subject myself to nonsense and to be belittled and to be picked at and laughed at? Right. So, which brings me to life lesson number 1. Life lesson number 1 is in this podcast episode is this. In the words of the great William Shakespeare, to thy own self be true. To thine own self be true. And for a long time, I struggled with that because I didn't want her to, the proverbial saying when they say, never let them see you sweat, right? And so for me, I let her see me sweat. And that's when that emotional damage came in at, because she kind of laughed me off like my feelings were invalid. I think that's one of the problems that we had in our marriage, is that if I said something, she would laugh it off like it didn't mean anything. And my feelings were very invalid. And that's the reason why things happen the way they happen. Because when a man feels invalidated by you, he's going to step out, or he's going to seek some validation somewhere else. And that's kind of a common sense thing. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. It goes back to the old saying, what you won't do, another one will, right? That's kind of what happened in our situation. Even though I wasn't physically doing anything crazy, but emotionally I was. And that's what, that beat her down. But she doesn't understand. And like I said, we tried to talk about it on the way to St. Louis, and I was telling her, I was like, this is what, and this is the reason why I did this, and this is the reason why I felt this way. And, she made me think, she made me feel like my feelings were invalidated. Ladies and gentlemen that listen to this podcast, man, if you have a significant other, do not, life lesson number 2, do not make them feel invalidated. Because if you do, I can promise you the end result you will not like. You will not like it. It's not going to feel good. And what I realize in this journey that I'm taking right now is that I still miss that woman. And but I also know that in that particular feeling, I know that there is no possibility. But knowing it and walking in it are two different things. You know what I'm saying? I know that she doesn't want me. I know that, right? But I'm not at a place in my life right now to where I think that I'm willing to accept it. I'm not willing to accept the fact that she doesn't want me. But it is what it is, right? I don't fight the feeling. I don't make waves. I go with what is in front of me. But it doesn't make it hurt any less. It's just what it is. As I'm saying, it's just life, right? So again, like I said before, we have a excellent co-parenting situation, but me personally, Terry, I haven't been able to let go of the emotional side of it, unlike her, So, but I'm not going to sit here and gaslight her and whatever the term people use these days. I'm not going to do that. She's justified in her feelings. She's justified in her actions that I caused. But what gets me is that she makes me feel like my feelings aren't valid. As much as I try to validate hers, she won't validate mine, and therein lies a problem. Now, I'm in this process, growth, and trying to get past it, and it's just not as easy as I thought it would be. For a few months, I walked around like I had made it. I feel like, I felt like I had turned the corner, but in all reality, I haven't. I haven't turned the corner, and I want to, because it's important that I do so. Because if I don't turn the corner, mentally, it's draining. It's draining. I work and I come home and I really don't do anything. I go out. I went to the movies a couple of weeks ago, by myself, took myself out. And sitting at a table by yourself when for years you had someone else across the table from you, it was pointless. It was, I think it was the toughest date I've ever gone on. If you ever want to try to see what dating yourself is important. Don't get it twisted, not one little bit. Dating yourself is important because nobody's going to love you like you. I say that a lot. Nobody's going to love you like you. But for me, it was tough. It was like hard. What I realized too is that a lot of things, even though I thought I turned the corner and I thought I made it through, but I realized that a lot of the things that, like, for example, I live in a small town. And I live about 30 minutes away from my ex and my son. And we have a visitation to where she drops him off to me on Friday nights, and I take him back home on Sunday evening. Driving to the city, the town that we lived in together is triggering. I didn't realize it was a trigger. Like, I would take him home on Sunday and I would just lose my mind emotionally. I wouldn't say nothing. I wouldn't spaz out or crash out or anything, but it was emotional though. It was draining. And I realized that everything, I was yesterday years old. I will say this, and I put this on my Facebook post yesterday. I was yesterday years old when I realized that anything that happens in my life currently that remotely reminds me of my past triggers me. Being married to her, doing things with her, going out with her, everything triggers me. And like I said, it's not like when I say trigger, I don't crash out or nothing, but it's emotionally like my mood changes. I instantly get annoyed. Like, it's just a lot of things. And I said, okay, this is it. This is enough. This is enough. And, it's just one of those things that, I just got to live through. I got to, it's one of those things I got to get through. And I had to take that day by day. Now, one of the things that me and her used to do, we used to go to church together. We went to church, a couple times together. And now me, some of you guys may or may not know, I'm a preacher's kid. And so I grew up in the church. So for me, church is easy. Church is the base of my life. But I've gotten so far away from it. I feel like, after a while, you're praying to God for things and, you want these blessings and you want God to move for you. But sometimes you just feel so far removed from it. And that was me. I feel like I was so far removed from any kind of blessings, any kind of anything, right? So last night I made a conscious decision. There's a new church that opened up in Columbia. And I said, they opened up like 6 weeks ago. And the pastor had texted me. Because it wasn't like an automated thing or nothing. He was like a real dude. Like, he really texted me. We had a conversation and he was like, man, we're looking forward to seeing you. And so I didn't go. I didn't go to the launch. I didn't, and I didn't go. I made a conscious decision on yesterday to, get dressed and go. And I went. And I'm glad that I did. And here's why. The message that he preached was designated especially for me. And what he said, I want to relate it to everyone who's listening and it was a simple message. It was really simple. It wasn't, long and drawn out. It wasn't, the hooping and the hollering like you hear in most churches. But the message was simple. He said, sometimes in life, God says, even though he's going to bless you and do things for you and open doors and things of this nature, there is a season of your life where you go through the not yet phase. God's going to, whatever you pray for, whether it be a job, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a house, whether it be whatever you ask God for, sometimes the answer is not always yes, right? And sometimes the answer is not always no. It's sometimes not yet. And what he said was, and what he challenged all the members of the church, the congregation that was there, and he said, "Are you being faithful in the not yet?" That's a question. Are you being faithful in the not yet? And I'm sitting there in the back of the church because I sat in the very last row, the very last chair, you know, and I said, "No, I'm absolutely not being faithful in the not yet." And then we sit and we wonder why God hadn't moved for us because we're not faithful. I've asked God to remove these feelings, and to restore my heart and restore my faith in people and, move me forward. I've asked God, I don't know how many times to do that. But was I being faithful in the not yet? No. Was I doing things to set myself up for the blessing? Sometimes we miss our blessings simply because we're not prepared for what God has for us. Whether that be happiness, whether it be someone else coming into your life, whether it be just totally happy in ourselves, we miss it because we're too busy doing other things. I spent so much time thinking about and trying to relate the message to my ex-wife that, hey, I still feel away. How about you? And God said, even if I restored that marriage, you're not faithful in the not yet. And so that message relayed to me so abundantly, right? And I'm sitting back there, and I'm going, okay, Jesus, that was that, all this time, I'm thinking I can win her back. All this time, man, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? Like, I ain't prepared for nothing. Even if God was to restore it, bring it back full circle, I ain't prepared for that. If He bring it back to me now, I would be in the same boat a year from now because I ain't prepared. But where I'm at in my life right now, though, is that I have to realize that that's a done deal. That ship has sailed the whole 9 yards. And it's like, okay, all right, it's a done deal and I need to move forward. So I have to prepare myself in the not yet, where I got to get my affairs in order financially, emotionally, get my affairs in order because whatever blessing that God that is going to bestow upon my life, I have to be ready for it. And that's the message that I want to send to you and everybody who's listening, is that you have to be prepared for whatever it is that God is going to bless you with. If you're not happy with yourself, if you have doubts about yourself, self-doubt, if you struggle with trust issues, if you have PTSD, like most of us have. We have PTSD because we've been through trauma and we've been hurt and we've been lied to and we've been cheated on and we've been the ones who cheated and we've been the one who's lied. We've done that, right? But what I believe the message should be, let's get back to the basics. Even with everything that I've gone through in my life, even through the things that I've gone through in the last few months, God said, okay, I'm going to give you something else. I am going to bless you with something else, but not until you are prepared or getting ready in the not yet. The not yet season is not fun. It's not fun. And it's uncomfortable. And it gives you self-doubt. And it gives you anxiety. And it makes you feel a certain way. And it angers you. And you get, and you go through it and you get mad at the people that hurt you. But what we have to do is learn how to love ourselves, take ourselves out, set your table. It's just like And the analogy that's coming to my head now is it's like, and it's in the Bible, he prepares a table for us in the presence of our enemies. That's, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this as you're getting ready to have dinner at a fancy restaurant, and they come to your table, they set your table, they give you napkins, they get you drinks, they prepare you for the meal that's coming. The meal that's coming is your blessing, and you have to be prepared for that meal, because if that meal comes and you're not prepared, guess what? It's going to sit there. It's going to go cold. You're going to miss it. That is what we have to do right now. That's the season I'm in my life right now. I'm in that season right now to where I am preparing my table. I have to, because ain't nobody going to prepare it for me. I have to I have to move forward, be a good father to my son, and move on. I've said it 1,000 times, and that's the desire. The desire is to be a good father, to be a good man, to make sure that all of my affairs are in order. Because if, just like the pastor said yesterday, he's not going to bless you with the big things if you're not faithful with the small. And that's me. And I know there's a simple message. It's simple. You probably heard it before 1,000 times before. Especially if you're a churchgoer, if you've heard it. And for me, though, I haven't been to church in almost 2 years. And to hear that message yesterday really touched my spirit. And that is the message that I want to relay. Stop doing stuff you ain't got no business. That's what I got to do. I got to stop doing stuff I got no business. Trying to dip my foot on my toe back into the dating pool. That thing, listen, dating after 45 is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak, I promise. You have to be prepared to date in this society at the age of 40. I'm 49. So dating after 45 is something. And God is saying, or God is telling me, I ain't gonna tell you to do that. You ain't got time for that. You need to be patient, prepare yourself. And the reason why it's so prevalent in my life now is that for years, I have spent my life trying to do it for everybody else. And when people don't reciprocate what you do, it's a problem. Then you feel pissed on. You feel shamed. You feel a lot of things. When you think that you're doing the most and people don't reciprocate, that's hard, right? So whatever it is that you're doing, whatever you're going through right now, you have to fix it. You have to fix it to where it's good enough for you, because it's never going to be good enough for anybody else. It's got to be good enough for you, right? You have to love you. Like I said before, like I said at the middle of this podcast, is that ain't nobody going to love you like you. Ain't nobody going to give it to you like you. You understand? So it is prevalent. It's going to behoove everybody that's listening to this podcast right now, that whatever you're going through, if it's falling short somewhere, look in the mirror. This is for me, and not just for y'all. This is for me too. If you're falling short somewhere, it's you. Look in the mirror. Love you. Get back to you. Get back to the basics. Love you. If you desire to start a business, do it. If you desire to move, do that. And I was trying to do that. I was trying to move out of the little city that I was in. And everywhere I turned, no. You wanna know why? I was not faithful in the not yet. So the finances ain't where they need to be. So God's not going to bless me with an apartment someplace and I can't stay off TikTok. I'm not faithful. You know what I'm saying? So it's important. That's the message for today, right? Or for tonight, rather. It's nighttime where I'm at. Get back to the basics. Get back to loving you. Stop having that mindset of, man, what was I thinking? Don't try to think about stuff after you do it. And then you have to ask yourself, what in the tarnation was I thinking? Because I'm going to tell you what you're going to end up with if you continue to do that.
Emotional damage.
So get out of that, right? Find out what makes you happy. Not nobody else. What makes you happy? Me being on this podcast right now makes me happy. Me sitting behind this mic makes me happy, right? You don't go through life saying, what if or whatever. I mean, because you only get one shot at this thing called life. You get one shot. Let those people go. I said this 1,000 times in 1,000 different other podcasts. Let those people go. My ex-wife, she's my ex-wife. That's what that is. That's the reality I'm living in. It ain't easy, but that's what it is, right? So we have to do what we have to do, right? So with that being said, I want to let every person that listens to this podcast know that I love you from the bottom. You understand? I love you from the bottom. And no one can take that from you or me. I want you guys to have a great time. Love yourself. Get back to that. That's fun. Getting to know you again is fun. It really is. So get back to doing that. Get back to loving you. And then because loving you will make it easier for someone else to love you. That goes for me too. That's my word for me. But you guys have a great rest of your night, evening, weekend, week, all that. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't fry your brain too bad. Come back through and give me another chance. You can listen on all platforms and visit us at Knucklehead Chronicles Podcast.podbean.com. Until next time, in the words of the incomparable Jerry Springer, take care of yourself and each other.